Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. On today's episode, we continue our Barracuda week by digging into the season that was for the forwards. We're going to be looking at kind of where all these forwards, how they finished their season, and kind of what's next for them. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. All you have to do if you want to become an everydayer is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And we're going to be dive into the Barracudas season. So we're going to be looking at all the forwards today, but going to be going by points. So Andrew Agozzino, you are up first, but we're going to be diving into them, kind of looking at how their season went, where they can kind of look to improve, and what's maybe next for these guys. So especially guys who are UFAs or RFAs, or just kind of guys in contract situations, kind of what's next for them. So before we get into all that, though, I do want to let you guys know about our friends over at Game Time. Today's episode is brought to you guys by Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And we're going to dig into, like I said, we're going to start Barracuda week. So on the old YouTube, we do have the slides. I will, again, as always, make sure I've got you, the listeners, well represented as well. So Andrew Agozzino, forward, or everybody's a forward here. He'll be age 32 at the start of next year, has 1 year, $775,000 left on his deal. Last year was the leading scorer for the Kraken in 63 games, had 26 goals and 35 assists on 149 shots on goal. Agozzino will be back in the Sharks organization next year. He will have to pass through waivers at the beginning of the season to go back onto the Kraken, or not the Kraken, sorry, the Kraken just lost, to go to the Barracuda. So I don't expect anyone to pick up Andrew Agozzino when they go through waivers. We see this beginning of the year, right? There's this huge transaction flood of players, guy like Andrew Agozzino. But I really liked him as a captain for the Barracuda last season. Kind of really helped solidify that top line. Got to play with guys like, Eklund and Gushchin, and you saw those guys just respond. And having a guy like Andrew Agozzino around, who's been there and done it, he's got over 600 career games in the AHL, showed some flashes in the NHL when he got a couple chances last season with the Sharks. But just having a guy like that in your organization, especially when you have so many young players around, having like Tristan Robbins learning from Andrew Agozzino, that's a perfect guy for Robbins to learn from, right? Having Gushchin there to play on his wing, just having these guys who are going to be around Agozzino every day, and kind of learning how to be professionals. Agozzino was an underrated signing by Mike Grier and Joe Will last offseason, and I don't know if Agozzino will put up the same numbers next year. You're hoping he doesn't have to. You hope that some of the younger guys can kind of take a step up, but just having a guy like that, you're getting consistently night in, night out. So Agozzino, again, should be on the Barracuda again next year. Don't expect, anything crazy going on there. So next on the list, Daniel Gushchin, second on the Barracuda. So age 21 to start next year. 2 years left on his ELC at $828,000. 67 games at 22 goals, 23 assists, 203 shots on goal. And you really saw things click, I think, for Gushchin in that last third of the season, right? Where you saw his game continue to develop and become a more well-rounded player, doing, not saying penalty kill stuff, but just, you're seeing that effort like defensively, you're seeing him kind of just be a better player all around, and the offensive skills were there, right? We know the shot, we've seen the shot, we know the dangles, we've seen the dangles on the shootouts. Absolutely filthy hands, but just becoming a more well-rounded player. And we saw that, and we saw Gushing, go through a lot of crazy stuff, playing 6 games in 7 days, right? He went to 3-3, just whatever he was asked of him, he responded and did it well. I expect Gushing to start next year in the Barracuda. I think having another season for him to continue to grow and develop and kind of be the guy next year, right? As we'll get to Eklund here in a little bit, but Gushing should step into a top line forward role for the Barracuda next year. I don't huge additions draft wise. Like, we know the 2020 class was a huge addition to the Barracuda team last year. You're not going to see that for the 23-24 Barracuda. Most of the Sharks kind of prospects are going to be in college or they're in Europe right now. So you're not going to see a huge influx of talent. So I expect Gushing to kind of take that next step and being the guy for the Barracuda next year and kind of, again, leading the way in points for them. I would not be surprised if we do this time next year, and Gushing is the points leader for the Barracuda. So next, Thomas Bordeleau, who kind of had a season or two half. So also age 21, has 1 year left on his ELC at 916,000. You got to remember he burned the first. They burned the first year, getting him to come out of Michigan. So that was year 1. Last year was year 2, and then next year is gonna be year 3. 65 games for the Barracuda, had 22 goals, 19 assists, 160 shots on goal. We really saw Bordeleau kind of do his damage on the power play, especially that one-timer, which you saw glimpses of, but last year was really, really unleashed, and they did a lot of set plays for him. But Bordeleau definitely had a really strong start of the season and really kind of tailed off in the second half of the season. Whether it's, again, the grind of going from playing 30 to 40 games in college to playing, he played 65 games in the AHL and another, I think it was 10 to a dozen games in the NHL as well. Just the grind of playing that many games, especially for a guy who's used to playing 30 to 40, whether it's that, whether they also, once Chris Colo came, they kind of moved him from center to wing. And I don't know if that's kind of his best position. I know he's a smaller guy, but I still feel like Bordeleau is at his best when he's playing down the middle. You see that creativity more. So I think Bordeleau going next year, I think he's going to start the season on the Barracuda, especially the way he ended his season with both the Sharks and the Barracuda. I'd like to see him kind of let him have a chance to play that center position and continue to grow there and just be more consistent, right? Being, just a better 5-on-5 player and not going kind of shifts where you kind of just disappear. Again, first full year, and we, as I talked about with Nick Nollenberger on Monday's episode. If you didn't go listen to that, you should go check out that one. But just these guys, as the second year, just they become more consistent. You don't have those kind of lapses and stuff. And we like I said, we saw 2 different players between the first half of the season and the second half of the season with Bordeleau. So I think next year he starts on the Barracuda, but he will be on the Sharks, and I wouldn't be surprised if he plays more games on the Sharks than he does on the Barracuda. But I think they want to get him off to a good start next year. Playing on the Barracuda is probably the best way to do that. So before we continue diving into the Barracuda forward season that was, and kind of what to expect for these guys going forward, I do need to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our friends over at Game Time. It's that time of year. It's getting nice weather. You want to go out and do more stuff. Maybe you want to go see a Giants game, go see an A's game, enjoy some sports, go to a theater, go to concerts, whatever it is. That's where Game Time comes in. They make buying tickets super easy. They're a fast and easy way to buy your tickets for your sports, music, comedy, theater. Doesn't matter. They've got you covered. They have killer deals on last minute tickets and the best price guarantees. So you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have I love the flash deals. So if you're like, hey, let's just go to a Giants game right now, boom, you can go on, you can check the tickets. They've got some, they'll have flash deals on them to try to get them in your hands for a better price. They also have images of the seat views, because there's nothing worse than buying tickets. You get there and you realize you have terrible seats. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. So they've got you covered for anything that could come up. And what I really, really like, you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. They get sent directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your email, especially if you have like a spam mail that just kind of collects everything. They're right there on your phone, good to go. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So got some big names there that we covered. All those guys I expect to start the season on the Barracuda. The next guy on our list, I hopefully doesn't start the season on the Barracuda. So William Eklund, our Swedish son. So he'll be 20 by the start of next season. 3 years left, his full ELC left. They were able, slide that contract this year because he didn't play enough NHL games. 54 games played this year, has 17 goals, 24 assists, 126 shots on goal. I don't expect William Eklund to be wearing a Barracuda jersey again. So I think the only thing is if his shoulder injury is maybe a little slow to rehab from that, maybe they start him on the Barracuda, but you can pencil him into the opening night lineup for him. With his time with the Barracuda, a little slow to get started, and then once he kind of figured out that pro game, you really kind of that middle November, right around Thanksgiving, you really saw him kind of take off and start to become what we've expected from Eklund, and I think we'll continue to see that. He's, of course, scored his first goal in the NHL last year, and I think the confidence that's going to build for him, right? You've seen him start to score more and more. We know about his playmaking. We know about his creativity. I know there's worries about his size. I'm not worried at all. That was a fluke injury with the shoulder there where just a guy hit him at the wrong angle. That could happen to anybody. I mean, Kevin Labanc, it happened to Kevin Labanc, last season, basically the exact same play, right? That's just a hockey play that tends to happen sometimes. So, but Eklund, no, again, you saw him play everything, shorthanded, power play, 5-on-5, whatever they needed. And that's building that foundation for when he goes into the NHL. And, we saw David Quinn even give him opportunities. We saw him on the power play. He played Eklund a lot last year. I know the season was done, but, and that's always been our big question with David Quinn is how he's going to treat these young guys. Hopefully he's learned from previous mistakes and you see a guy like William Eklund get the leash that he deserves going forward. I know he's going to be a little bit older than some of those Rangers prospects that he had to deal with, but I fully expect we hopefully we don't see William Eklund in a Barracuda jersey again. He's plays for the Sharks going forward, and will continue to be awesome and prove why he was a top 10 pick and why he's going to be a cornerstone piece for this Sharks organization going forward. Great AHL season. Let's see him do it again next year in the NHL. So next, Tristen Robins. He'll be 21 at the age of next year. Has 2 years left on his ELC in 64 games, has 17 goals, 21 assists, 137 shots on goal. Pretty similar numbers to Eklund in definitely played some more games as well, though, to get his, taste of the NHL at the end of the season. With Robins, again, kind of the same thing, right? Great start to the season. Middle third of the season definitely disappeared, and then he came on strong down the stretch, and got that bump into the NHL for a little bit. So kind of like we talked about Bordelot, a lot of these guys is just being that consistent player night in and night out. And I expect Robins to spend another year in the AHL next year, kind of continue to develop and work in that consistency, and hopefully if Robins has the season we type of expect. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Gushin Robbins leading the Barracuda in scoring next year, and maybe Robbins is pushing towards being a point per game player. We know the shot. We've seen the skills when it comes to being, a playmaker. Now we just need to see it night in, night out type of situation, and continue to work on playing shorthanded, work on playing the power play, all that stuff. So expect Robbins to be on the Barracuda next year, and then the following year should be pushing for an NHL job. So, all right, Jeff Raviel, he'll be 26. He's actually a UFA. So if he doesn't want to come back to the Sharks, he doesn't have to come back to the Sharks. But he had 60 games last year, 15 goals, 16 assists, 137 shots on goal. Viel's interesting to see what they want to do. I think at this point, he's kind of just a career AHL guy. I know he looks solid with his short time with the Sharks, and but I think that's just kind of his path right now, is just kind of being a career AHL guy. Be interesting to see if he goes to another place where maybe he gets more of an NHL shot. But I would like him. I'd be happy to bring him back, but most with the expectation that he is going to spend most of his season with the Barracuda. And then if you need a guy who can kind of come up and play in a pinch, you pull him forward. But yeah, he would have to kind of like same thing with Agazino. He would have to go through waivers. So interesting decision. I think he probably moves on to greener pastures and maybe tries to find a place where he can compete for an NHL job, or has a better opportunity to compete for an NHL job. So Jeffrey Viel, though, scored a natty hattie. All right, CJ Cease, another one of those kind of career AHL guys that the Sharks brought in last year. He'll be 29 to start the season. Played 46 games this year, had 10 goals, 12 assists, 59 shots on goal. Pretty good shooting percentage there, but missed a good chunk of the season. I believe it was a shoulder injury or an upper body injury. Definitely kind of your third line center type of guy for the Barracuda. I don't know if they bring him back or not. Seems like a good locker room type of guy, all that stuff. So, but we kind of know what CJ Cease is, right? He's bottom six type of guy, good guy to have around with some of your younger guys, especially if you want to pair him with like an Ozzy Weisblatters or something like that. But I think if he wants to be back on an AHL deal only, cool. If not, then I'm sure there's plenty of other kind of guys that you can find just like him going forward. So we'll do one more before we take our break. Kyle Criscuolo, who the Sharks acquired for Jasper Weatherby, he'll be 31 at the start of the season. He is a UFA. Played 32 games with the Barracuda, had 12 goals, 7 assists, 90 shots on goal. I would 100% try to bring Kyle Criscuolo back. If you have to sign him and then run him through waivers again, just was a huge addition to this team down the stretch. Really provided stability along that second line. We saw Andrew Agazino and then Kyle Criscuolo as the 2C. If Robbins kind of takes that 2C job and you have, Agazino, Robbins, Criscuolo down the center, like that's not a bad AHL team there. So really kind of fit in with the team, at the stretch, especially after the trade. Again, just another one like Andrew Agazino, just another one of those guys who's a professional. He's been there, he's done it, he's kind of seen it all type of situations. If I was Joe Will in my career, I would be, trying to get a deal done to bring him back this offseason, because I think he's just a good guy to have around the Barracuda organization. And again, you can just sign these guys to 1-year deals and kind of play it by years after that. So, but yeah, great additions to the Barracuda. Really, pushed and helped them, and kind of as that team was kind of wandering, especially the middle of the season, was really kind of helped them right the ship down the end of the stretch. So just a little bit too late for the Barracuda. So before we continue, kind of finish up the forward group, do need to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our old friends at Athletic Greens. If you want to kind of get control of your health, get control of your stomach, just everything, your stomach kind of is a very important part of your health. That's where Athletic Greens comes in. Keeping up with proper nutrition is really hard. You're busy, you're stuck at your desk, you eat whatever you can just to get through the day. What if I could start your day with the ultimate daily nutritional insurance with a single scoop of AG1 in a glass of water? You can do all that and absorb 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up with a complicated supplement routine to recover. It cost him about $100 a day, which just isn't sustainable. He created Athletic Greens with experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutrition routine on your own, and all for just $3 a day. So right now it's time to reclaim your health, arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. To make it super easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a 1-year supply of their immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, so as we continue to kind of get through the forwards here, let's jump back in with Luke Johnson, another one of those guys that the Barracuda signed as in the offseason. 67 games, 10 goals, 8 assists, 89 shots on goal. Kind of was another one of those bottom 6 type of guys. I know the Barracuda aren't going to be having a huge influx of a talent next season, but I feel like if you want to have Johnson back, you can. But I feel like there's plenty of other guys willing to kind of take that next step for the Barracuda going into next season. And while Luke Johnson did a lot of kind of special teams, especially like penalty kill stuff, I feel like there's just some other guys I'd rather kind of see get a look going forward. So, Luke Johnson did have I liked his shootout style. He just was like, no nonsense, boom. And it seemed to work for him. So, all right, Brandon Coe, forward, 21, 1 year left on his $850,000 ELC. He's an interesting guy because he had 56 games and he only scored 5 goals and 11 assists with 42 shots on goal. And I thought Coe would just kind of really hit the ground running. I think that was one of the things I was most wrong about, especially how well he played in his juniors. We saw him play in the AHL during the COVID season. And it just didn't really click for him. He struggled to kind of gain ice time last season. Was really just, just wasn't kind of what we expected and didn't really kind of solidify himself going forward. So I think for Coe, it's important to really do that right next season and solidify yourself as an every night type of player. And not kind of in and out of the lineup type of situation. So, I feel like on the Barracuda, he should be like a middle 6 type of guy. Maybe your second line if he's playing with either Chris Kohler or Robbins type of situation. But, I think getting used to kind of the speed and the intensity of the Pro League, having that another season will do him wonders. And for him, don't expect him in the NHL next year. I think we want to kind of like with a lot of these other younger guys is for him winning that kind of night in, night out, winning the confidence of the coaching staff and being an everyday player. That needs to be what Brandon Coe's goal is being an everyday player and shooting more. I mean, we know Brandon Coe can score. Having 42 shots in 56 games, that just doesn't feel Coe-like. So I would be an everyday player, and I think shooting more is going to help him kind of succeed a lot more. So, I'm going to kind of with his confidence too, and kind of be that guy that we expect from him. So, Ozzy Wiesblatt, so he'll be 21 at the beginning of next year. He's got 2 years left on the $835,000 deal. His ELC. Played 45 games, kind of like Coe, same thing, where he really kind of struggled with being a kind of in there every night. Did have 6 goals, 9 assists on 43 shots on goal. And I think for him, the pathway we saw really struggled at the beginning of the season, was sent to the ELC for a short period. It's not the EHL for a short period. Got sent to Wichita. Didn't play any games there, but, was in the press box most nights to begin the season and really, again, just going from that jump from juniors to the AHL, and I think it was a little bit tougher on him than we kind of expect. I still think he is a perfect Mike Grier type of player. We see the tenacity, we see the forechecking, we see the skill that he has combined with that stuff. Kind of like Coe, right? Next year, he should be an everyday type of player for the Barracuda, playing in that middle six. And, it was averaging almost a shot a game on goal. I'd like to kind of see him continue to develop that offense and just building on the confidence of, being a professional hockey player night in and night out. So I would love to see him like on a third line. If you had like Weisblatt, Chris Colo, and then, even like Coe, or it's just kind of a bigger, nastier line that's got some skill, like sign me up for that. That sounds intriguing. I am all for something like that, and let these guys continue to grow. Don't expect to see Ozzy in the NHL next year. I think a full year in the AHL being kind of that guy and, kind of being a professional, it's probably the best for Ozzy next year. So Martin Kaut, who the Sharks acquired in the Ryan Merkley trade. So 24, he is an RFA. So the Sharks do own his rights. I think, hold on, I can actually tell you while I pull this up. I checked it the other day, but Evolving Hockey did put out their contract projections, and I'll probably do a bit more on this here in an episode coming up. But so Martin Kaut is expected to sign a 2-year. Hold on, where was it at? Martin Kaut. 1 year, sorry, he's expected a 1 year, $905,000. So basically $1 million next season. He did have 19 goals, 19 games, 3 goals, 11 assists, and 63 shots on goal. I liked Kaut, what I saw from him. I think having a full off season in the program, with trades, it can be a little bit difficult for some guys, just kind of fitting in the system right away, especially for Kaut, who kind of bounced around between the Sharks and the Barracuda. So he'll be one of those guys going into the training camp where he has a chance to win a job with San Jose, or if he'll have to most likely I think he will have to pass through waivers from going forward now. Trying to pull it up. He will have to pass through waivers going forward. So I could see him, starting the season on the Barracuda, and if he starts the season hot, if he starts well, and then making the jump to the Sharks, or just kind of being a yo-yo type of guy for the Sharks next season, where he's bounced between the two. But a big guy. I like to see him use his size a little bit more, but I think a line with like. If you put him on a line with Robbins on your second line, I think you'd be feeling, that's kind of a nice diversity there on that line. If you want to put him on the top line with like Agazino and Gushin, it feels like a good fit for those guys. Kind of some diversity on there. So he don't expect Kaut to get I expect him to get like a 1 year RFA deal, and you kind of keep going forward with him and see if you can figure out what you have in him. So as we start to finish this up, Adam Raska, 22, has 1 year left on his ELC. Last year he played 54 games, had 4 goals, 7 assists, 57 shots on goal. It'll be interesting what they do with Raska going forward, who, kind of in and out of the lineup type of situation. And I wonder if he's in the Sharks' future, to be honest. We know he's a pest and he's pesky, but I think I'd rather just have Ozzy Weisblatt, who can kind of bring that edge and also has more skill and talent. I wouldn't be surprised if Raska is like part of a trade at some point where you maybe have to match a contract and you just kind of have put him in a throw-in. We know, like I said, we know what type of player he is. He's a, very much to the edge type of player. He's willing to kind of fight and do whatever he needs to do. But I don't know what his future is with the Sharks. And like I said, I think he might be part of I wouldn't be surprised if he ends the season with a different team. So in the next season. So that's just my guess. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just don't know where he fits. So And finally, Max Verano, who the Sharks signed out of the SHL last season. He'll be 27, UFA. 31 games, 1 goal, 8 assists, 38 shots on goal. Missed a lot of the season due to injury. Very disappointing, especially after he was the MVP in the SHL. And then he comes over here and scores 9 points in 31 games. I honestly think he is probably going to go back to the SHL. That would be my guess. Go back over there and score a bunch of goals over there. Just never really kind of fit with. I don't know if he kind of fits, and I think you found guys like Chris Golo to kind of do the same job as Max Verano. So you never know. You take those flyers. You never know whether these type of guys could potentially pan out. It was a lottery ticket, and it looks like unfortunately it didn't do anything. So. That's kind of it for the main guys here. So some of the other just guys to kind of keep an eye on going forward. So, you have guys who are, we'll see what they do. Like Nathan Burke, who, I thought he looked good, had a couple of moments at the end of the season. You have a guy like Connor McKiernan, who's on the roster right now. So a couple of these guys, they played a few games here and there at the end of the season. We'll see where they kind of fit in going forward. But like the Sharks are, then you also have guys like Mitchell Russell, who basically missed the entire season with an injury, who's also kind of in the mix here too. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where these guys shake out in training camp and heading into next season. So I think this Barracuda forward team, I think they're probably still another piece away or two on the forward groups, but you got to feel really good about where they're kind of sitting at right now. So that'll be it for me today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, just come back tomorrow. Our good friend Hattie is back. We profile Jaden Perron, and then I get his thoughts on the Michkov versus Carlson versus Smith debate and where he would go if he was general manager Mike Greer. So we talk about that tomorrow as well. So just make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And, of course, you can watch on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. And until tomorrow, bye, friends.